Welcome. We are the Serious Film Critics, and this is our show. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
So we haven't done an episode in a while, and we got a new host, Justin. So
Hello. Yeah, I'm ready to have some fun.
We'll see how he does. So, what have you been watching lately, Justin?
I actually just finished the Vikings. I started it a while back, and then got a little bit bored, and then I started verging off and watching other shows. But then something kind of just brought me back to it. I went ahead and bought a Hulu membership, and of course Hulu's just full of amazing shit. So, yeah, I went back and I was like, well, I'll give it a second chance because it does get a little bit slow around the middle of season 2. But I've been watching. I just finished watching that earlier today. Actually, I woke up and finished the last episode. That was amazing. But
is it the end of the show or just the end of the season?
End of the season. Right. So they just actually released a trailer for season 5.
Oh, yeah.
So it says 2017. So who knows when that'll actually be? But yeah, no concrete date. But I'm waiting for it. I can't wait.
Yeah, so I guess you should check out Vikings if you haven't seen it. I've heard a lot of good things from a lot of people. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, I got amazing ratings. I think right now I got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. I personally go off Rotten Tomatoes because they're just brutally honest. Yeah. I don't think they're always fair or true, but I think they're the best source to go to. But yeah, definitely check it out. You might get a little bit bored here and there. The plot kind of goes in 10 different directions, and it's tough to keep it all together, but if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you can definitely keep up.
Yeah. So I've been basically watching a lot of crime dramas recently. Been trying to find one that isn't stupid, and a lot of people basically act like BBC crime dramas are really good. So I checked out this one called Luther. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's got Idris Elba in it, and he's basically like this, I don't know how to describe it, like psychopath cop that just breaks all the rules. And I couldn't believe, because American crime dramas like CSI and NCIS, they're all pretty dumb.
They're all pretty constant and predictable.
Yeah, exactly.
The plots are rinsed and repeated so many times.
I mean, there's always the element of comedy. The cat. I mean, they always, they do tons of dumb stuff. So I watched this show Luther, and I thought, no, they're not going to do any of that in this, and it's just stupid. All he does is pick fights with people. Oh, and at the end of the first season, there's this massive plot twist where it turns out it's not his partner, it's his friend in the police department decides to go rogue and kills his ex-wife. So it just has all the dumb shit that's all in American crime dramas is in this one too. And it really bothered me because this show gets such high praise, but
minus guns, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I really thought was funny about the show is the second episode is about this sniper. He kills 13 police officers in Britain or something. But of course Luther talks him down without a gun because he's British.
Yeah.
They don't need guns. They use guns in that show all the time, even though it's supposed to be England where nobody has a gun.
Well, I guess they're trying to appeal to all the audiences, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
American audiences definitely wouldn't relate to a cop drama without guns.
Yeah, that really bugs me because there's a lot of cop dramas in England where they don't have a gun, and they're constantly getting their asses kicked because they don't have a gun. They have nothing to defend themselves with.
A taser.
Yeah, sometimes they don't even have a taser. Yeah, so I watched that, and then I started watching Justified, which I think just ended a year or two ago.
Yeah, I definitely heard about that, and I don't know what the ratings are on it.
It's got really good ratings.
Yeah, the way I've been trying to do things is I just follow one series at a time, because
that's what I usually do.
Because if I don't do that, I'll just completely lose track of it, and then I'll be like, I got to start that whole season over, or maybe I'll never even get back to it at all. But I haven't seen it, so I guess I'll let you.
It's not what I expected at all. It's less about solving crimes and more just about the main character who's he's an old school marshal. The movie is almost or the show's almost based on Tombstone. They allude to that a lot because they're marshals in Tombstone, and he's always drawing on people like they did in the West. He kills so many people.
But it's modern day.
Yeah, it's in the modern times.
Yeah.
But it's also not really stupid. It doesn't require a lot of suspension of disbelief. Other than the fact that he kills a lot of people and never really has to go through that mandatory suspension process. They'll randomly be all right, we're gonna investigate this shooting, but then the next episode will shoot 3 people and be all right, that's all good.
Yeah, it just leaves it to assumption.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like it a lot. It's got good acting and good writing, and it's definitely not the typical crime drama.
Well, if you're comparing it to Tombstone, then I definitely have to see it.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
That's in my top 5 best movies all time.
I mean, it is similar to Westerns, like I said, he's always drawing on people, and it's got that old school feel. He does old school crime solving, but yeah, I like it a lot. I think I'm in the 2nd season now. Nice. So that's probably the first crime drama I've seen that's been good in a while.
So is that on Netflix?
It's on. I don't know if it's on Netflix. I'm watching on Amazon Prime, which has a pretty decent amount of stuff.
I might have to check out Hulu and see if it's on there.
It might be on Hulu. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, Hulu's purely about shows.
Yeah.
They have some movies, but
I have Hulu. I haven't gotten on there yet, so I need to.
All the seasons of South Park, man.
Yeah.
Can't miss out on
They
them.
used to have those on Netflix, which makes me sad that they took them off.
Yeah, and then they left a few, and then they were like, well, it's purely on our website now.
Yeah.
And then now it's not even that. Now you only get a couple.
Yeah.
And they have a theme for the week. But anyways.
All right, so I think we're going to move on to a little bit of news. We only got one news item, but apparently they're making a sequel to Mary Poppins.
Oh, man. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because, they try to bring back these old classic movies, and it seems like they never do them justice.
No.
Very rarely. And I don't know if it's the nostalgia that doesn't get recaptured or if it's just the fact that they try to twist it to make it more appealing to the modern audience. I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know if it's a good move. It's going to be a moneymaker.
Yeah, I don't think you should touch something like Mary Poppins. I mean, that's a beloved children's classic.
Oh, yeah. And, the main actresses and actors of that movie, can't come back.
Yeah, I know.
And when you think of Mary Poppins, you associate it immediately with those characters.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of Willy Wonka in some ways.
Yeah.
A lot of people did like the remake, and some people thought it was maybe a little bit too creepy.
Yeah.
But I thought that it didn't recapture nostalgia, and I thought that was a big example of a very popular 70s movie.
There are movies, I think, from certain time periods that you shouldn't touch because they're too ingrained in our culture. Especially from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
That's a movie that every kid grew up with, and they're going to go back and try and mess with it.
Yeah. So big risk, at least on the director's reputation.
Yeah.
But hey, he's gonna make a payday. I can guess that much.
Yeah. Apparently, it's Emily Blunt is going to be Mary Poppins, I think, and then it's going to have Colin Firth. And then it's set 25 years later. I guess they go back to visit the children who are all grown up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know that detail. So, all right.
It's a sequel.
Yeah. So if it is basically Mary Poppins Part 2, I can see that being okay. But I feel like they're definitely going to have to do flashbacks.
Yeah.
There's going to be tons of references to the previous movie, and it's just I don't know.
Plus, there's a lot of kids coming up that haven't seen Mary Poppins.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of those classic movies, a lot of people today don't have a lot of respect for just because of the style of acting, the use of props.
Yeah.
Things were a lot different back then. There's no CGI or tons of green screening back there like it is today. So, it's I have mixed feelings about it, but I think overall it's probably not a good decision to do it.
I don't think so either. I guess they are digging deep because they don't want to really take risks with original films anymore. But at the same time, I feel like the only people that want to see a Mary Poppins movie don't want to see a Mary Poppins movie because they love it so much. And then everybody else doesn't really know much about Mary Poppins. All the older people that love Mary Poppins, they don't want a sequel.
Yeah.
And then the kids are like, who's Mary Poppins?
Yeah, a lot, maybe at least Generation X kids might still get it, still... At least their parents showed them the movie, so they'll be supercalifragilistic, So I don't know. It's going to be tough. I don't think it's going to capture the imagination of the baby boomers or anything like that. But it might sit well with Gen Xers. We'll see. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So that's the only piece of news we got, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Definitely didn't know it was getting made. So now I think we're going to move on to the review for today. So we watched a film called Adore, but it was also known as Perfect Mothers. I think they changed the title because Perfect Mothers wasn't sitting well with a lot of people.
Yeah, it's definitely a misleading title, to say the least.
It's like a French-Australian-American production. Maybe not American, but anyway, it's apparently based on a novel whose author's name I can't read right now.
Doris Lessing?
Yeah, they're called The Grandmothers. It's directed by Anne Fontaine. Came out in 2013 and written by Christopher, Hampton? Hampton.
Yeah, Hampton.
Christopher Hampton. All right, so stars Naomi Watts as a character named Lil, and her son is Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier Samuel.
Yeah, Xavier. Yeah, these.
Well, that's the real actor's name.
Yeah, the two actors they played. Her son name was Ian, and the other guy's name was Tom. And part of the problem we're getting kind of like choked up here is because these characters were just so forgettable.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely like they definitely wanted to make it all about the grandmothers, the mothers / grandmothers, which you'll see at the end of the movie why they're grandmothers. But
yeah. The other actress was Robin Wright, and then Ben Mendelsohn was okay. So let's just get down to it because we're getting off track here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the film opens up with the two main characters, Lil and Rose. It's spelled Roz.
Well, they call her Roz. Yeah. It's some Australian shit, you know, whatever.
They're like kids. They're like frolicking in the sand. Then they grow up. And then they have young children, 2 boys, and it shows them just like running around. And then it cuts to a funeral, and we find out that it was Lil's husband and Ian's father who died in a car accident, I guess, because Rose's husband, who his name is Harold, basically says that Lil's husband was just like an idiot, didn't care about speed limits.
Lil's Naomi Watts, by the way.
Yeah, that's Naomi Watts, and then again Robin Wright is Rose.
Yeah.
These characters, most of them didn't matter.
You'll see.
Yeah, you'll see. So you have the funeral. It's obviously it hits Lil and Ian pretty hard. Ian especially. He doesn't like not having a father, obviously.
Well, that makes sense.
So then it cuts to the kids are all grown up. I guess they're about 18,
and we'll get to this later. But the way it cuts and the way each progression throughout the film cuts. The pacing in this film, it was all wrong. Very annoying, but anyways, yeah.
Yeah, let's get on to it. They're like surfing. You don't know how old they are, but we find out later they're about 18 or so. And the 2 mothers, Lil and Rose, are watching them surf, and they make some comment about how beautiful they are, how they're like young gods.
Yeah, you know, they started so early in the movie to just like throw it out there. I mean, they leave nothing to imagination.
Yeah, nothing.
I mean, they immediately
they put that sexual tension in there, but it's just like getting hit in the face by a brick.
Oh yeah,
it's not subtle in the slightest.
Not at all.
Yeah. Anyway, so they basically make these comments about how this is very telling. They could never have boys that good looking when they were younger. So then the next scene, they're at one of their houses. I think it's Rose's house.
Impossible to say because they're always at each other's house.
Yeah, they're always at
just chilling.
Just like a quick side note, like they live in like some paradise beach town in Australia, and they both live in like castles on the beach.
And they are exactly castles, dude. Because when they walk up from the beach, they're walking up like these stone steps and opening these vaults of doors. I mean, it's just they're that well. And another thing is that looks like San Diego.
Yeah,
they're not in an Australia sea town. But anyways, yeah, they're incredibly wealthy, living the good life, hanging out. So.
Yeah, the 2 kids and the 2 mothers, it's like there's nobody else even in the picture, really. They're always hanging out with each other. That's all they do is hang out, drink. The guy Harold shows up for a little bit. He doesn't matter.
No, not really.
So basically, they start going through this like picture album, looking at pictures of when they were younger. And of course, this is also foreshadowing. So then you find out that Rose's husband, Harold, has a job in Sydney, which is pretty far away. So he's going to go there to get set up, and then, eventually Rose and Tom are going to go join him out there. So he leaves Rose and Tom alone, and then you got Lil and Ian. So then it's literally just the 4 of them, which is just a recipe for disaster. They have no friends, apparently. They never have any friends in the show, or in the movie.
At least until a little bit later on near the end when they started going to
I guess they live on the beach with nobody around, so yeah, also Lil works at like a yacht business or whatever.
Yeah, she works at like a yacht club. It's impossible to say what she actually does.
Yeah, and then Rose, I don't know what she does. She works at like an art gallery or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That scene also didn't really tell us much. I felt like maybe she was appraising the art.
Yeah.
It's possible, but anyways, they got a ton of money from something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but anyways.
So then in the next scene, Lil's at work. We find out she works at the alcohol. There's a guy named Saul who obviously wants to date her, and she's not interested. This scene makes like no difference in the film whatsoever. So then later on, Rose and Ian share a cigarette, and Rose talks about how sinful she feels smoking.
And let's talk about where they shared the cigarette.
Yeah, they're
on like basically like a plank.
It's like a floating platform,
basically,
in the ocean. It's really far out there.
Yeah, definitely. You have to swim like a half mile out to get to it.
and it's obvious that already you see that the kid, he's like staring at her, giving her these looks. Ian, he's in love with her. He's even like coming like creepy.
Well, she's sitting there tanning, and she turns over, and he looks at her ass. You know what it's about. You know what's about to happen.
in the next scene, they're back at someone's house, either Rose or Lil. I think it's Rose's house again. They're dancing, getting drunk, because this is what kids do. They get drunk with their mothers and...
Oh, yeah, and their friend's mother, and drinking terrible Australian beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
They're dancing, and then finally, Lil leaves, but Tom and Ian stay at Rose's house, because Tom lives there, and then Ian's like, I don't want to leave, for some reason. So then, Ian basically decides to make his move on Rose, and he kisses her once, and she pulls back slightly, and then gives in.
Liquid courage, man.
Yeah, she just capitulates instantly.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's no real build up to that. There's no obvious. There's nothing that points to the fact that she is lustful,
other than like the
beginning.
Thing,
the beginning scene where they're on the beach. There's that slight comment. But it's not as if they both agree to the... I don't know. It's a weird situation.
So they go to town on each other, and then Tom catches them, and out of spite, he immediately runs over to Lil's house, wakes her up. I don't think... Does he tell her right away?
I think he jumps into bed with her?
No, first he goes over there, and he tries to kiss her instantly.
Oh, yeah. And then and they do kiss, but then she, like, pulls back.
Yeah, she's like, that's wrong.
And she's taken back by it, so...
And I can't remember if I think he tells her right there. I think so. Anyway, he sleeps in his own bed, and then he just gets up and gets into bed with her. I mean, he comes off as almost like a rapist the way he's doing things.
A little rapey. The director's trying to portray something here. We'll get to that.
But he gets rejected, and then of course, the second time around, she just gives in to him. So then, the next day they're surfing, because that's all they do is surf all day, every day.
Yeah.
And then Tom goes home, and his mom is like, where were you? And he's like, I was there, banging my friend's mom like you were banging my friend.
He was so open
He was so
upfront. Dude. He didn't care. He did not care.
He just straight up, and then she slaps him in the face, but she doesn't give a shit.
She just did it out of pure shock factor, and probably the fact that he said it without a filter. He didn't try to ease into that. He just, boom, bombshell. But that's how his personality is. You'll see how he acts throughout the whole film. It's kind of a self-serving asshole in a lot of ways. But he's not even the one that's being the most self-serving.
Yeah.
It's the two grandmothers/mothers.
And they also, they discuss it, and they're like, all right, we can't do this. It's wrong. And that lasts maybe 5 minutes. And then the next, there's also a scene with Saul that comes up where he gets rejected by Lil and thinks that they're lesbians. This scene didn't matter at all. I don't even know why this scene was in the movie.
Well... I felt like they wanted to expand more on his role because he did. I don't want to say he played an important role, but his role was basically saying like, "Oh, Lil, she's single, she's lonely, she's looking for a man," and maybe the director was like, "Well, here's an option besides that the son, but besides that 20-year-old kid," and it just shows that she's still completely invested in this kid, this child, you could call him, And turns away a perfectly nice, good guy, and the way he got turned away also kind of it made me feel bad for him, but it also kind of pissed me off because they were both there together. He was saying like, "Oh, I'd like to have a moment alone."
Yeah, and Lil wouldn't even speak. No. Rose kept speaking because he was in love with Lil, and Rose was speaking for Lil. He's like, I want to talk to Lil, and she wouldn't let her basically.
Yeah, well, at first she was like, no, I'll step out if you would like, and so she takes her cup of tea and starts to walk away, and then Lil's like, no. It's just, and then after the embarrassing rejection where he walks off, he's like, I hope you both had a good laugh over this or whatever. Yeah. Then they do laugh.
Yeah, they do laugh,
and they totally mock his shame.
Yeah,
it's just But
everybody in this movie is just a terrible person.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so the next scene is literally just like the new lovers frolicking on the beach. And all of a sudden it jumps 2 years later. Yeah, the whole time this movie is making these weird time jumps at random times. So basically, 2 years later, Harold, Roz's ex-husband, is living in Sydney with a new family. And he got Tom... he wants to be a director for plays. He got him a job directing a play for like a month in Sydney.
Yeah, it was a musical.
Yeah, it was a musical. So Tom goes there, and of course, like the first chick that auditions, he falls in love with her.
Almost
instantly. It's like he doesn't even try to resist her.
Yeah, it's just... the way that he fell in love with her also didn't seem real.
Yeah.
It felt like fake. It almost felt like lust over love.
Yeah.
It's like... is this thing between their friends' mothers? Is this swap that goes on? Is it lust or is it love? You're constantly questioning
because another thing we'll talk about this later. Actually, we'll get back to this. The two relationships are not the same.
No,
but we'll talk about that later. So he meets a new girl, and he, instead of just turning her down, he starts hooking up with her basically instantly. And Lil knows that stuff is up because he calls and talks to Lil, and he's like, yeah, I got a girl in my play, the lead, she's really good. And Lil knows that means that she's banging him.
Yeah.
So then Lil's getting depressed, and then her and Rose have like a talk basically saying that this can't go on forever because they're getting old. Throughout the whole film, you can almost see that I guess they actually made them look older.
Yeah, definitely some makeup going on there.
Because they can see themselves aging in the mirror. So then, then Tom comes home for his birthday, and Harold brings Tom's girlfriend with him. So it's not only was he banging this chick, she's his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he just flaunts her right in front of Lil, and he never broke it off with Lil. So it's like Lil's obviously like, heartbroken. Tom's just an idiot. Or a jackass, I'm not sure.
A little bit of both. Definitely confused, definitely young and impressionable. I mean, I don't know, man. That scene confused me.
Yeah.
Big time.
I just think he was really stupid. Maybe that's the actor looked dumb. He was playing him stupid, but he just came off as an idiot throughout the entire film.
Oh, yeah. Just like oblivious to what he was doing. I mean, like how he didn't. It's like he took no regard for how Lil would think.
Yeah.
Or what might conspire. Would he bring her? I mean, you just. But I guess that's the whole point. That's what they wanted in this movie. That's what they wanted to portray.
So then Tom gets married to this girl. That was another thing. That was a pretty big leap. Because Tom gets married, and then I'm not sure if it was before or after this, Rose and Lil decide that it has to end. They can't keep doing this. And Tom doesn't seem like he gives a shit that much, but Ian is very heartbroken because Ian is the original one, and it seemed like he was a lot more in love with Rose than Tom was with Lil.
Yeah.
So Tom gets married. At the wedding, Ian meets a girl. He's not even interested in her, but I guess he decides to date her anyway out of spite.
Yeah, they were like eyeing each other at the reception after the wedding, and then they began to dance, and then I guess it takes off from there.
Yeah. Then Tom gets rejected again, and he gets into a surfing accident, messes up his leg. This doesn't matter either, other than the fact that his new wife, I forgot her name, doesn't matter. Yeah. Ian. Anyway, he gets into a surfing accident. He starts, dating, and then he knocks her up, and she comes to tell him. And he's obviously very upset that he's knocked this girl up. So then it skips ahead again, probably like 4 years or so.
Yeah, definitely.
And then because they both have children.
Yeah, and they're talking and running around. I mean, these children are at least 5 years old. Maybe,
They're old enough to talk and walk. So they all go to the beach together, and it's obviously making out the mothers, Ian's and Tom's wives, to look like bad mothers because like the kids like want to spend all the time with the grandmother, and then like the two mothers like, all right, we want to leave, and the kids are like, no, we want to stay with grandmommy.
And I don't want to get away from the point of what we're talking about, but let's just say this whole scene that conspired for about 10-15 minutes was so cheesy.
Yeah, it was so cheesy.
Poorly written, and I mean, yes, the acting in the movie, I'll admit, was great for the most part. But this scene was not well made. I mean, the lines of the actors, the way things were trying to be portrayed. And for example, the biggest one, when one of the little girls tries to go into the ocean. Whatever the wife's name is, the blonde wife.
Yeah. She like picks her up and she's like, no, you can't go into the water. And then the husband, Ian
runs up and says, No. Can't you see you're scaring her?
Yeah.
Oh, and the way he said it was so cheesy. I mean, if they wanted to try to portray tension in the relationship, they could have done it much better than that. Okay, you get mad at your wife for telling your daughter not to run into the ocean? Who cares?
Yeah, I know.
That made no sense at all. But anyways.
And then they try to leave, and like I said, the kids, like, they don't want to be away from their grandmothers because the mothers just suck. So then they take them away, and then like they're having like a little soiree thing again at night. And then Tom gets drunk and decides to wander off and go to Lil's house and bang her again.
Yeah.
So then Ian catches Tom in the act, and he's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
Well, the way it happens is they're at the party. It's not exactly a rager. It's some kind of pretentious rich people dance party.
Yeah.
But anyways, so they're all drinking. He gets drunk, and well, he asked his mom where she was.
Yeah.
You know, and she said, oh, she wandered off or she left or I don't know what exactly. But anyways, it's almost as if he knew exactly where she was, right? So he just went down. She was like on a dock, I think.
Yeah.
There was like a couch on a dock or something. Or was it like on, maybe it was like on a patio overlooking the water, actually?
Yeah, I think it was just like the deck.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, their houses are right on the water. I mean, they're about to fall in.
Yeah. Like
so,
stilt houses.
So anyways, you're just like, oh, you know, nothing's going to happen. They called it off. There's no way something would happen. But, oh, then you'd be stupid to think that because next thing you know, they're just banging.
Yeah, I mean, Tom just doesn't care.
He's just laying pipe.
He's just so reckless.
Yeah, I know.
He's just in there going to work.
He just wants to slay. So,
That's all he does.
And he does.
So then, like I said, Ian finds out. Ian is an idiot, too. He goes back. He explodes. He's like, not only were they doing it, they've always been doing it. Like, we weren't doing it, and they were doing it for, like, the last 5 years. So, basically, he's really upset that he missed 5 years of prime sex time with Rose.
Well, they had an agreement.
Yeah.
And
Tom and Lil didn't care.
Weeks after the marriage.
Yeah, that's what they said. Then, he goes in there, both of their wives, which is funny because Ian's wife decides to leave him too, even though he didn't cheat on her or anything.
No, it was, I guess it was just like the dishonest factor of it all. You know, she was like, oh, I couldn't believe he would lie to me. And I don't know, they don't really expand on that. Or
they both just leave. They're out of the picture.
Yeah, they're like in and out.
Because he's yelling at Rose right in front of the two wives. He doesn't even care if they listen. So they get up, they leave, they're like, we're done, you know.
Yeah.
And Tom and Ian, they just don't care.
And at first I thought, because, you know, they kind of show up behind him and while he's like in the middle of his angry rant. So I thought maybe he just didn't know, and then there would be like a shock factor where she would like, it's like, they're right there, and he would turn around and be like, oh no, and have all this regret. But no, he just gave no shits.
Yeah, he really didn't care.
He was just like,
he was so mad.
Yeah, and she said that they were right there, and he's just like, I don't give a shit, you know, basically. Yeah. So that just goes to show like the emotions that he was going through. It was a roller coaster of emotions for him. I mean, he was pissed off, heartbroken, also still in love. I mean, I don't know. That was a confusing scene. But.
Anyway, so then the wives and the two daughters are like, you're never going to see us again. And Tom and Ian are like, good riddance. You know, we're terrible parents.
Yeah.
So they roll out, and then it's back to, you know.
Yeah, so much for our kids.
Tom and Lil and Rose and Ian are back at it.
Yeah,
and then it basically ends with them on the beach, you know, back to their
they
grandma banging ways.
This movie goes full circle.
Yeah.
Just a couple of years pass. You know, they're just like, we'll go off, you know, have kids, get married, and then, you know, fuck you guys. Yeah. Bye-bye. You know, we'll go back to our grandmother banging ways. So
that's the plot. I know it took a while for us to get through that. It may have been very confusing. But the problem with this movie is that there were times where there was no conflict. I mean, you know, like I said, after Harold and Rose got divorced, then literally all they were doing was just like having like the romance. There was no conflict whatsoever. Like it had to bring new conflict in because the conflict kept getting resolved. And then they ended the relationship and they both got married. And you're like, okay, well, it's over. Oh, wait a second. Tom and Lil can't keep their hands off each other, so there's another conflict. And there was like these random pacing problems. It was just,
oh man.
And the characters, Ian and Tom, were like so forgettable. Like it was so hard almost to tell them apart. And then Harold was played by Ben Mendelsohn, who I like a lot, but I mean he was barely in the film. And
no, and his part was kind of it should have been expanded on a little bit more. His role, you know, his part in the film, because I thought actually his part was one of the most important parts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because you know, childhood friends and their mothers, they basically swap. And it wouldn't have been a big deal because, you know, Lil
was a widow.
Is a widow, right? But someone's still married.
Yeah.
She still has a husband. So they're not only doing this weird, unconventional, nasty, you know, swap, but she's also cheating on her husband.
Yeah.
Right? So, and as the husband, you know, I thought maybe he would play a bigger part. Maybe just it would build up to where he's just like catching on and maybe, you know, catching on to something happening and him appearing in a couple of scenes where maybe he's catching them getting flirty, or maybe he would play a bigger role.
Yeah.
But all that really happens is he just like asks a couple questions, he gets a little uncomfortable, then they argue over why they why she doesn't want to move.
Yeah.
He has this big job he got in Sydney, and he wants to leave. And then she says, "Well, I've already talked to my son, and we don't want to go.
We want to stay. And we love the house too much."
And he's just like, "Wait, you're going to choose the house over me?" He's like, "Well, fine." And bang, gone.
Yeah, he's out.
He's gone. And
not only is he out of there, but he gets a new family like instantly.
Yeah, he gets a new family. I'm like, something should have happened in the middle.
Yeah.
I
really thought that she was either going to come clean with him or he was going to catch on. But instead he comes home and I think he leaves the same day. And she's like, we're done. Yeah. I want the house.
I just really thought he would poke and pry and maybe try to get more suspicious and like maybe walk in on them doing something and angrily leave. Create like real tension that mattered. But he just didn't.
he's like, peace out.
The fact that his wife was banging her best friend's son just mattered nothing at all. So whatever, I guess.
All right, so there's a lot of stuff we got to get to with this film. I think one of the most interesting aspects, first of all, I'm not sure exactly what, apparently when this film debuted at Sundance, people were booing it. Like, it pissed people off.
And
I'm kind of trying to figure out which scene they got pissed at.
And that was the thing throughout the movie, because we laughed at a couple of parts. But throughout the movie, I was kind of trying to guess, this is where they booed.
Yeah.
No, this is where they booed.
Because there were scenes that you should boo at.
Oh, definitely. I mean, of course, you go into it kind of knowing that you get what you get, that's the plot. But it's just some of the scenes were a little unexpected and just messed up. And I don't know. Like, if they're going to boo, they might as well have booed the whole damn movie.
I know.
It's not like there were very many twists that weren't predictable.
Yeah.
So... I can see why they would have booed the movie. But
first of all, I want to talk about the fact that the characters, I think there wasn't a single good, except maybe Harold. There wasn't really a single good character in the entire film. Everybody, except maybe Ian a little bit, was like just a self-serving jerk. Like even, and I think we were supposed to look at the two main characters, Rose and Lil, as like the two good people, because it's like I said, with the kids on the beach, like they were better at raising the children than like the two bitchy young moms. And, the two bitchy young moms leave again, and then they're back with the two young boys.
Yeah, because
it was obvious that this was, like, empowering for older women, but they were terrible people, too.
Oh, yeah. No, I went into it kind of thinking, like, oh, man, I wonder if this is, like, kind of one of those Hollywood feminism type things where the men get bashed, almost like a Hallmark movie or something like that, or Lifetime or something, right? But it wasn't, like, really overly Lifetime-ish, I mean... Obviously, the two boys looked bad, but at the same time, they were just that. They were boys.
Yeah. They were young boys when they got roped into this.
Yeah, going into the movie, they were like, well, of course, after the wave crashes and all of a sudden we've gone through a time portal.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're, I guess, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
You can assume, or at least, you can think that, well, these boys are 18. Their mothers are probably in their 40s, right?
Yeah,
30s, maybe. They're young and impressionable, right? They're easily going to be duped or,
I mean, they have no friends. They live in this isolated little town.
We don't know really much about them.
There's no character development.
There's no character development. We don't know much about them. We don't know, if they have neighbors, if they have friends, what their other hobbies are, because apparently all they do is surf and drink crappy Australian beer, so we don't really know much about them, but I guess we can assume that because they're so young, maybe it's not really their fault that they were drawn into this. These are not old, but mature women that have, those are their sons. And
they have grown children.
Besides the fact that they've known each other their whole lives. They raised their kids together, right? Besides all of that and how messed up that is, these are older women, call them what you want, cougars.
Yeah.
But, these young boys, I came out of this movie thinking this director probably wasn't trying to make men look bad in general, and definitely I don't think was trying to make these two boys look bad because of their age, because of
I really think
the circumstance.
More what she was trying to do was make the two older women look good.
Definitely.
Because like I said, the two younger women look like just big bitches in this film. They really do.
Oh, yeah, they do. And... yeah, I guess I took it. I kind of didn't do like a complete 180 on my thoughts about portrayal of men as opposed to women, but yeah, they definitely showed the dark side and the good side and the mix of emotions between these two women, and so I think it was overall in that aspect fair.
Yeah.
So
So what else can we talk about? I want to talk about the dialogue. I really think that this wasn't a well-written film. There was some really awkward dialogue in it.
Oh, yeah. And this goes back to that scene I was talking about on the beach. I could say about 75% of the awkward dialogue I could point out that stood out to me was all on that scene.
Yeah. I mean, that was a really poorly written scene.
I know that in a lot of movies, young children, how good can a little kid be at acting? And it's not their fault. They're not going to tell kids to improvise.
Yeah.
They obviously gave them lines, but they gave that one girl, what did she said something super cheesy on the beach when the other girl got picked up.
I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember what it was, but I cringed so hard. It was like...
Oh, she was like, I want to stay with grandma or something.
So her mom picks her up, and she's like, no, grandmammy, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, grandmammy, no. All while having this huge smile on her face.
Yeah.
I was just like, you could have, shot that part again, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That scene was just cringy to me. Like, look how, beautiful and angelic the grandmothers are. And like I said, look how awful these two young mothers are.
Well, the producer, the director, everyone involved in making this film definitely sat around in a round table and said, we've got to try to build some kind of tension between their new wives.
Exactly.
And, so they had to throw it in there.
Yeah. There had to be problems between the wives and the mothers.
But there was nothing until that scene, and that wasn't even a big deal. I mean, it was weak.
Part of the problem is you skip these large periods of time, so any character development gets skipped too. Like I said, you have the wedding, and then you have Ian's wedding, or you don't even have Ian's wedding. Ian knocks up his chick, and then they're married, and then you have the next scene, and then all of a sudden they're broken up already. Yeah, like those relationships went by in like the course of 15 minutes.
Well, it's like, in history class you learn about these ancient characters 2,000 years ago, and we can document their entire life, but they're like, well, between this year and this year, we don't know much about their life, but that doesn't matter because of their significance and blah blah blah. Well, as far as this movie goes, these characters are very significant.
Yeah.
They are the star characters. They can't just this sequence of time, this time frame isn't important to the plot.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty damn important, right?
I definitely think we should have seen more time with Tom and I forgot his wife's name. I think it was Helen or something. One of them was Helen, I think. I don't remember the other one. I think Tom and Ian, I think they needed to develop their relationships a lot better with their two wives. Instead, they were just thrown in there and then they were gone.
Well, especially the blonde.
What was her name? I feel like her name was Helen.
Especially her. She was the most forgettable role. I mean, the other wife, at least it showed her.
Yeah, like it showed her at the play.
Yeah, it showed her at the play. It showed them sort of getting cozy with each other. Well, they definitely banged a couple times, which, by the way, there isn't really any real nudity in this movie or real sex scenes. There's like, they show the butt, they show ass. That's about it. But so the sex scenes aren't really pronounced, but anyway,
it definitely has a lot of them.
Yeah, it like begins and then it just boom, fast forward.
Yeah, then they're in bed.
But don't get me wrong, there's definitely intimacy in the movie, but at least as far as like the two new wives go, you don't see very much intimacy. You don't see them getting cozy.
Never
kissing. You don't see them growing as characters in general, especially not the blonde. Whatever.
The only scene the blonde even had was when she was helping him at rehab. That was it, because he gets into a surfing accident and breaks his leg. There's no point in this even happening. It serves no purpose in the plot. And then in the hospital and in physical therapy, the blonde, his future wife, helps him through that. And that's it. That's the only development of their entire relationship.
So I think the blonde's name was Hannah.
Hannah.
And then the other one was it Mary? Hannah and Mary?
Maybe, yeah. You should check on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Mary.
So Jessica Tovey played an actress named Jessica Tovey. I've never heard of her before. Plays the brunette wife, Mary, and then Sophie Lowe, also never heard of her, plays the blonde wife, Hannah. Hannah, by far weakest character, least developed character in the whole movie. Plays a very short role in the movie. She's not shown very often, but she was so important, I thought. Yeah. Super important, but...
just as important as Mary was.
Definitely.
Especially since when, during the scene where they call the whole thing off, Ian is a lot more upset than Tom is. First of all, Tom already has a new girlfriend, and second of all, this is something I wanted to talk about earlier. Ian was the first to start a relationship with Rose, and then Tom almost goes back and starts a relationship with Lil out of spite. He literally goes over there just to get back at them. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like his relationship was never even founded on, love. It was just spite.
And that's what I was saying earlier, too. I touched on that, and I'm glad we're kind of coming back to it, because there's definitely, there was some confusion. I don't know if confusion is the right word, but distinguishing love from lust in this movie.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what kind of made it a drama,
Yeah.
Romantic drama. It's just, what is lust and what is love? I can definitely tell that one relationship was love,
Yeah.
but one was lust. And they don't make it super obvious. Now we're sitting here looking retrospectively. It seems so obvious,
Yeah.
but as you're watching the movie, the pieces don't really come together that well. So you can't really tell, like, but does he love her? I mean, he keeps going back to her, so. But no, I guess I kind of gather that it was just lust.
It's also interesting to me that Tom, first of all, it seemed like Tom was just an idiot. I hated this guy.
Yeah.
It seemed like he really just was interested in just having sex. Like, he wanted to keep Lil as his, like, side piece. And he did. And it's like, at first, Lil is so upset when he has a new girlfriend. And then she just, like, rolls over and is like, okay, I'll just be your side chick for years. And she is. For literally years, they carry on the relationship, and he'll just see her when he comes to visit.
And you find out about this when Rose and Lil sit down on the bed, and they're finally talking about everything that's been happening. It's near the end of the movie. There's maybe a half hour left in the movie by the time the scene comes. But they're sitting on the bed, they're talking about it, and that's when she spills the beans. Yeah, we've been doing it all along.
Yeah.
And then she tries to, like, sugarcoat it, like, oh, but, we would go weeks, months with a break.
We just needed to know it was still there.
And it's like, what was still there?
What are you
talking about? Like, I don't know.
I think it wanted to almost seem like she was being taken advantage of, which I think she was. But I mean, she wasn't innocent.
And like I was saying earlier, it's tough because these are mature, older women, and these are their children, right? So if anything, they're taking advantage of these kids.
Yeah.
These guys, who knows? They could have been virgins at this point, right? We know nothing, right? So they're probably young.
Well, they were like 18.
Young, horny teenagers surfing around, looking to get some. And for all we know, that's probably the case. But it's just they switch it back to where, like, oh, maybe they're being regretful. Maybe they're actually being taken advantage of now. Maybe the tables have turned or something. I don't know, but.
The other thing I wanted to touch on real quick is Tom. I hated Tom so much. He was
we'll have a whole nother podcast about that.
Yeah, his entire motivation in life was to be like a theater director. So we get literally, I think, 3 scenes of him doing the theater stuff, and it's like it doesn't seem like he shows any interest whatsoever. No. Like it's like that doesn't matter at all to the plot, but it should, because that's how he meets his wife Mary.
Right.
It's like you just never see why do you want to be a theater director and what how does it impact his life? It doesn't.
I suppose he just wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps.
His dad was a professor, right?
But a professor.
I think he was a drama professor.
Yeah, he was a professor of theater.
Yeah, something
like that. So I guess he kind of wanted to. I guess it was already in the family.
Yeah.
Acting, theater, and the arts. So it was, and I guess it was his mom was. Appraising art.
Yeah, so she was something like that.
Yeah, so definitely a very artsy family. Yeah. So I guess, it was already ingrained into him to do something like that. And of course, when his dad said, hey, I got an internship for you. And then, he sits down with that douchebag playwright.
Oh, yeah, that was the guy in his own town, though. That wasn't the guy in Sydney.
No.
There's a scene where, like, I don't even see the point of this either. Like, he's working with this director in his own town, and the guy's just like a jerk.
Yeah.
Because the guy, Ian, comes to pick him up and comes in. He's like, you're not allowed to have your friends in here. And it's like, I don't know what point that scene served either.
I guess because they were in the middle of an audition and he's just like a D-bag. And there's definitely some filler in this film. But I feel like that filler or whatever you want to call it could have been used towards character.
Yeah, like that could have developed his character, but it really didn't.
No.
And then, like I said, and then he goes to Sydney and he does the musical. And the first chick we see audition, of course, is the chick he ends up marrying.
Oh, yeah, right.
The dude's one and done.
Yeah, no, I mean, she was like, oh, let me redo it. Let me,
he's like,
I can do better. And she goes, no, that was great. Bam, just reeled her in like a fish. Just like, boom, hook, line, and sinker, right? They're like, oh, that's all you needed to do, man.
And the best was, like, the only resistance he gave was they go back to her room. He's already getting drunk with her, so he already knows something is going to happen. The next scene is, like, them getting drunk together. They go back to her room, and, like, he won't kiss her, and she's like, what are you, gay? And he's like, no. And then he kisses her, and they have sex, and it's like, that was the only defense he put up is he didn't kiss her right away. Like, so it seemed like he was trying to resist for the sake of Lil.
Yeah, he never had the intention of even going in there, right? I mean, he just wanted to drop her off, and it happened, right? You know, and then there's another scene where she's like, "Don't you want your present, your birthday present?"
Yeah.
That's later on, but you know, same thing. You know, just like trying to have some restraint, maybe just like, I don't know how I feel about this, gives in.
Yeah, he literally rolls over like a freaking.
Oh yeah, no, they just. Like I said,
he doesn't put up any fight.
No, they're just trying to get it on.
Yeah,
they're just trying.
That's Tom's entire motivation, like just getting it on.
Yeah,
just whoever he can.
Definitely more of a lust thing for him.
Yeah,
his role, his character's confusing as hell.
Yeah,
it's tough to know. I feel like the entire movie kind of comes back to him. Like he's just.
He definitely drives the plot more than he.
Oh yeah, he's just like, oh, this poor guy whose best friend is banging his mom, but is actually in love with his mom and has a good thing going with his mom. Whereas he, from the very beginning, is maybe showing regret. He's like, oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't have, you know, gotten back at him, been spiteful. But then, and then
honestly,
he ruins everything. He ruins his own life.
does. He ruins everything, and he doesn't care either.
No,
like Ian doesn't care either because Ian's just mad that he missed the last 5 years, and didn't get to have sex with Rose. That's all he's mad about.
And that seems like lustful, but I think he was truly.
Yeah, I think he was definitely in love too. Because he literally just throws his relationship down the toilet instantly. He just flushes that thing. He's like, I'm done. I'm getting back with Rose.
And I do in some ways feel bad for Ian because it's like. He didn't start this whole thing.
He didn't even want to get married. He knocked the chick up, and he's like, all right, well, I'm stuck here now.
Yeah, and of course, you never see that part develop at all. But I guess now, retrospectively, we can just assume that was the case.
Yeah.
And, oh, got her pregnant. Guess I got to make a family, with her and marry her, right? But I just feel bad for Ian, man, because, his friend did his mom.
Yeah.
And, he hadn't done anything by that point. And all of a sudden, he's just gets this sudden sense of betrayal.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, his first inclination is, well, I'm going to go bang his mom, right? And it just happens, man. And from that point out, he's just sort of out for himself.
Yeah.
Very selfish, self-centered actor.
Yeah.
Or not actor, character.
Yeah.
But, so, I don't know. I feel bad for him on one hand, but on the other hand, showed some of his true colors later on in the film.
Yeah.
And definitely could have gone about things a much better way.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it a drama.
Yeah.
So...
There's also a scene, there's, like I said, coming back again, to scenes that don't really belong in the film. There's a scene where they are, Tom and Ian are, like, trying to kill each other.
Oh, yeah.
This is right after they start their relationships, and they never explain what they're fighting about. Yeah. I guess they were mad over the whole banging my mom thing. They get into a fight, Tom bangs his leg, and then that's it. There's never any tension between the two ever again.
No, and that scene was... Like you said, useless.
Yeah.
There's no point in that scene. I guess the only point I can gather is, yes, they did get pissed at each other.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was obvious already, but they got physical with each other. So they went out to surf, and the two moms are talking on the beach, and they just kind of nonchalantly like, oh, it looks like they're trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Oh, let us go and stop the fight. It's like...
And he's got holding him under the water. He's going to kill him.
He was drowning this guy.
Yeah.
He was legitimately drowning him. And, it's not like they get out there and stop him. And I guess he just, breaks loose.
Well, no, I think that what happens is Tom is holding the guy Ian's head under, and Tom hits his leg on a rock.
Gotcha. Oh,
that's the only way. They wouldn't have been able to stop him because these are these young chiseled Greek gods.
Yeah, right. And so, and I guess that leaves the what if. What if he had not have scraped his leg? Would he have just freaking murdered his best friend for life? Right. So definitely, I guess not a very strong scene. I mean, I felt like a scene like that maybe needed to exist.
I guess
it showed.
It never came back up again. Though.
It showed that was the peak of their emotions towards each other. That was the pinnacle and. It maybe could have been a little stronger. But, the audience had to have known that they would have been pissed at each other,
obviously.
Right? So, I don't know. That scene was a little weak, but it is what it is, man. There's lots of those scenes in this film, so...
Is there anything else we can talk about? We covered a lot.
Yeah, we did.
It's a character-driven drama with a lot of really shitty characters.
Yeah, not a lot of development. It's almost like the characters came and went. It's almost like we watched The Walking Dead.
Yeah, really, and they had three really strong actors. Naomi Watts is amazing. Robert Wright's great, and then Ben Mendelsohn. I really love him, and they held their own considering what they were given. But their performances were mostly just crying. There was a lot of crying.
And what's interesting to me is that I think I just read that the budget was $16 million.
I mean, that's pretty...
I'm going to have to go back and check that. But then I also saw that the movie only grossed... Oh, okay. So I'm looking again at another source. So the box office totaled at...
$2 million?
2.6 million almost.
That's pretty bad.
So they made a $14 million loss on this film?
That happens. It's not that unusual.
But I'm so...
I think they probably spent most of that budget money on the actors. They probably had to pay Naomi Watts and Ben Mendelsohn and Robin Wright a lot of money.
Well, then why did this director think that she would get a big hit?
I don't know. The thing is, $16 million isn't hard to make back. You can do that independently. Just do like film festivals and then do like a small release and make like, a few million a weekend. You can make $16 million. But I think what happens is this film was just, it was a disaster.
Yeah, you can't just, I don't know. You just can't make an indie
Flops
film.
Get made all the time.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised.
That's true.
That's a common thing.
Yeah, they just make kind of like a mediocre indie film and release it in select theaters, I think, and that was it. And
this definitely did not get a wide release. I don't even think it came out in the U.S. really. I'm sure it did somewhere, but
yeah, I mean, like it was an Australian film.
Yeah.
And I think every single actor at least had an Australian accent.
Yeah, Robin Wright had an Australian accent, which I think was good enough.
Yeah, I didn't.
There was a couple times where it faltered a little bit, went British, or trying to think of the other way it went, but it was mostly good.
Slang,
Yeah.
And they use a lot of Australian slang.
Yeah,
keep you
Lesos.
Keep you reminded that this is in Australia. So, but yeah.
I mean, almost the entire film takes place in their two houses, like on the beach. Those two castle houses,
which makes me I'm baffled where that $16 million came from. Like you said, paying the actors, actresses alone, but it's like I'm assuming they rented out those properties for the entire filming. I'm not sure how long the filming took place. But there wasn't a big change in scenery.
Yeah, I mean they filmed almost the entire film at those two houses. There was very few scenes that didn't happen there. I mean, there was like one or two scenes that happened in Sydney, and then there was scenes in the theaters that could have just been done on set. Probably were done on set.
I mean, definitely green screened. Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
I mean, like I said, I mean they must have been paying millions to the actors because I mean, really, it looked low budget.
Yeah, and I don't think actors like of their caliber would take a role like this and just kind of run with it. And just like not care about their careers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're.
I mean, maybe they thought this was going to be like a critical success. I mean, a critical success can make a lot of money.
Those are so rare. And you really have to take like a big leap. You have to do something that's very unique, and you have to do something that's out there, something that's just really gonna. Something that sets apart.
And I mean, this was a very unique film, though. Let's be honest.
The plot was pretty unique. I almost felt like I've kind of like heard of things like this before, but I don't know. Yeah, I've definitely never seen a movie with this kind of plot. Like we were saying, it's based on a book. Maybe go read the book.
I'm curious. I'm really curious about this book.
I'm not curious enough to read it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to read it, but I'm going to read about the book.
Maybe we can go to like Spark Notes. And
Spark Notes. Let's just get like the summary.
Yeah, we'll get the plot summary and get the. I wonder what Spark Notes says about these characters, because you know how Spark Notes will.
I don't know if they're gonna have a Spark Notes to this book or not.
Spark Notes really probably only does like real literature.
Yeah, real
stuff.
Not this.
Nah, probably not. But I would like to actually see a review on the book.
Yeah, me too. To see what they think of the book.
Yeah, and see what they think about the characters, because it's definitely good to get other perspectives. And with characters portrayed the way they were, I mean, who knows what people think?
Yeah. I know it didn't do that well critically. I think it got a pretty low Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it got 31% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's not good considering that they were shooting for something here.
Yeah, and it got like a 5.7 on IMDb, and IMDb is a little bit more forgiving in general.
Yeah, so that's not good.
No, it's not good. So when you look at Rotten Tomatoes and you see 30%, well, even with Rotten Tomatoes, you can say, well, 30%, it's like, it's bad. It's definitely going to be a bad movie, but maybe it's worth watching because it's Rotten Tomatoes after all, so that's why I look at the audience score. And the audience score was like in the 40s, right? So, but, definitely wasn't received very well. Critics hated it. All the audience scores were low. So, I don't know. What do you think your audience score is?
Let's do our ratings. Let me think.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. So we're going to do the 10-point scale.
You can do 10, 5. You can do any scale you want. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to do a 4-point scale on this one, which is the typical movie scale.
Well, I mean, you'd 5, 4 stars, or 10. Well, I would say 10 would be the smartest.
I'll do a 10-point scale. Man, I'm gonna have to give it a 3. 3 or 4.
I think if I would give it a 4, because if you're curious about it, I think you should watch it because there's something to be said about the uniqueness of it.
Oh, so I'll give it 1 point. Uniqueness of the plot. Yeah, that deserves a point. The second point, the good acting. I mean, overall, the acting was good with what they were given. Yeah. Besides the fact that there were a lot of big name actors. Yeah. I mean, even the ones we'd never seen before. The two guys.
I think that Tom was a terrible actor, but the other guy was okay. Yeah. I did not think he was good.
Maybe not.
He just came off as an idiot. Maybe that was on purpose. Maybe not.
Probably. But so I mean, the acting overall, I give that a star, and then the third star would just be the use of props. Just the whole setting, the way it was shot. It didn't look like the director was like crappy at her craft.
Cinematography was definitely
good. Was on point. The sounds and just the ambiance of where they were.
Yeah.
What they were trying to. That was all okay. So I mean, maybe I would give it a 4. Maybe, but I think I'm going to stick with 3.
Yeah.
3 out of 10. If we were to give it a 4-point scale. Maybe a half star.
Yeah.
Half star. Because I know some great movies that are 1 star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, half star, I would say.
All right. Well, that's that was a doozy for our first review with Justin. Is there anything else you want to talk about today?
I think I'm good. We touched on what we were watching recently in the beginning. Got the news. So, I think I'm good to go. Thanks for bringing me on. I've never done a podcast before, so this was a good one. Good first start. Had fun. Definitely a weird movie to start out with.
That's what we're gonna be doing.
Could have done something a little bit more conventional, but that wouldn't be as fun, I guess.
Exactly.
Right? So I had a good time, and thanks for having me on, Dave.
All right, so that's it for our show. We'll catch you next time.